Forever, Only Built for Cuban Links, Part 2, Shaolin vs. Wu-Tang. Ray got enough on the board for me to put him a pass in this next round. You know, to me, it just boiled down to like Raekwon actually was in a group, just like Andre was in a group, and Raekwon has the solo efforts. Like, he's got solo classics. So to me, it's like an equal matchup because they both were in a group. So you can't use the whole group thing, you know what I mean? Where Raekwon stepped out and showed us his greatness in a solo effort. So I gave him the push on that, you know, on that side of the board because of that. Like I said, it was a tough one, man. This was like the toughest matchup, I believe, of this round probably for me. But I had to go with Ray. But Twitter is saying, I mean, Andre's got it 77%.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I think Facebook is pretty similar. Mm-hmm. So I think Andre's going to move on to the next round.
I thought, I mean, like, you know, more, I remember I saw on Facebook. Yeah. But I thought, in general, they would have been closer than what
right.
You know.
Yeah. Facebook might be closer, but either way, Andre's got both. Yeah. And the write-ins, you know, we don't have that many write-ins as opposed to on the online. Yeah. So it'll probably be Andre in the next round. Safe bet. You know?
3 stacks.
Yeah. So next matchup we got, as we're kind of closing in on this round, we got Common Sense from the Shy. You know what I mean? He made out the first round pretty easily versus probably, you know, one of his idols in hip hop, Big Daddy Kane from Brooklyn.
Right now, when you lease a Samsung,
and I was surprised when some of the voting when I was at least on the Facebook voting.
Yeah.
And stuff, because like I personally wrote Kane just because the overall influence. We're talking about showmanship, catalog.
Common got him on catalog.
I know. Well, I'm talking about early. I'm thinking about 80s. Well, yeah, overall now.
Got him on catalog.
But I'm talking about to me. But I think Kane's catalog, even before he dipped off, was very, very solid. You know, granted, Common has more albums than him.
Yeah, Kane got like 2-3 classics.
Kane is still doing splits at 50 years old.
He's still here.
You know what I mean? I personally don't care. You know what I mean? When he just split the Juice Crew show, I was a little nervous. I didn't think he was gonna get back up.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one because this is how I like to use this argument, like when it's a tough matchup like this.
Yeah.
Like at their peak, right? Yeah. At their Marvel power peak.
Yeah.
You know, who was better? And I gotta say, when I use that analogy, it was Kane. Like Kane was like a god of rap.
Yeah.
And Common it's interesting. Common kind of had multiple peaks. But I would say the peak was probably B. Mm-hmm. You know, where he's getting like Grammys and he's getting, you know, nationally acclaimed, worldwide acclaimed. Mm-hmm. But he also had like an earlier peak with a lot of underground stuff, like Water for Chocolate.
And he made Cute like semi-retired.
And so Common's career is like so, like the road is so long. But I think I went Common on my physical bracket. Mm. Yeah. What about you, Ray?
Yeah, oh my bad, I'm hearing my feedback. Yeah, I went Common as well, man. I mean, I think what it is, Brandon, to kind of add to what you were saying, I think Big Daddy Kane in his prime, in his prime, he had like a top spot, kind of like how during the, late 90s, early 2000s, how like, Jay-Z was a top name, DMX was a top name, Eminem like that. Like in the 80s, he was amongst that tier, whereas Common, he had the quality, but he was always just outside of that because he didn't necessarily have the radio hits for his era, with the exception of, The Light, right?
Right.
But, but catalog, me, I just prefer Common. I just prefer his style of MCing. I like his flows better, the evolution of his sound, and I mean, just even now, I even like that you could put him on the spot and he'll freestyle off the top of like he's been on the Sway shows and they'll just throw words at him and he'll just freestyle and he'll do it. And that's not necessarily a requirement, to be a great MC, but that does kind of put the icing on the cake that it's like, yo, it's not that Kane isn't the real deal, but for me, Common is really that dude because whether he's creating records or going off the top, he's nice with it. His passion for it is it's both on records and off the top. and I like his catalog, man. And I love B. B holds like a special place in my heart. You know how it is when an album just hits you like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to move it like that. And yeah, even though I think Kane was probably a bigger artist in his era, I think I prefer Common's music. You know, and you know, he even got the battle records, man. We were talking about Ice Cube earlier in this podcast, and he went up against Ice Cube and embarrassed him. So
yeah,
definitely, man, definitely.
And that hurt me when I first heard that song, "Bitchin' You." I'm like, damn. And next I know, Ice Cube was in some movies.
and nobody thought Common had it in him because Common wasn't that kind of rapper.
Exactly.
You know?
When he said, he had the one line like, I think Nation is on somebody. He was saying something about the contradictions.
Oh yeah.
But you hear with the old 40s, you know what I mean?
What did he say? You Muslim hypocrite! I'm filling out your death certificate.
Yeah, I remember hearing
that. Yeah, he's on the album side or against him.
Yeah.
I mean, that hurt my heart when I first heard that song. Damn.
All right, guys, I'm going to play this song, and it's going to be a funeral. We're celebrating, but it's going to be a funeral at the same time.
Yeah, this one.
It is beautiful. I still voted for Pun out of spite. I went for Pun out of spite on this one, but it was a funeral.
Listen, man. All right, so we're going to the next round, next matchup. Sorry, we got Big Pun, who advanced out of the first round, going against the late great Tupac Shakur, who advanced easily from the first round. You know, we could talk about this for 5 minutes. We could talk about this for 5 hours. Here's the thing: Tupac is just one of those artists that's ingrained in people's brain. He's a John Lennon. He's a James Brown.
Yo, yes, thank you. You took it right out of my head, John Lennon. Yes.
You know what I mean? And you just can't argue people down about this man. I'm one of these fans. And Pac is just, that's going to get him to the end of this matchup, to the end of this bracket.
Yeah.
To speak frankly. Doesn't take anything away from Big Pun, because Big Pun is he's Final Four material. You know what I'm saying?
He was my Final Four. I put him over Pac, knowing that most people weren't going to put him over Pac.
Right.
And a lot
of
that catalog.
Where do we have Pun? What was he?
On Facebook, I think Pac was like in the 70-80% percentile.
I mean, like the seed.
It was a blowout. Yeah, I thought it was a blowout, and I knew it was going to be a blowout, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think Pun was accurate. I think a 7 seed. I mean, you know, you could go higher, but with the lack of catalog, I mean, he's a good 7 seed.
For catalog, you can't argue the catalog.
Prodigy's a 7 seed.
Yeah.
So you know,
I think with Pun, you know, I think granted lack of catalog, but the impact to me that he did within the 2 albums, though, as far as being the first Latino rapper to go platinum, to be like how we look at Andre right now as far as guest appearances. That's how Pun was in the span like 4 or 5 years, just going on somebody's track and demolishing them. Mm-hmm. You know, especially when you hear Norio on the documentary, like, yo, Pun didn't even like half the niggas. Like, he just got on there just to embarrass them and get the check.
Right.
Have fun. I mean, remember Mr. Servo for No Limit?
Servo.
Like
Servo on.
Yeah,
you know?
that was definitely a check. That was a check.
You gotta play that. That was my shit.
It was. You heard Mr. Servo rap. I'm like, yo,
big
the hell?
with the big gun, yeah.
Yo, that was a good. Yo, but I mean, Pun's verse was crazy.
The Pun verse, yeah, Servo and I.
He just swerved on. Oh,
New York to New Orleans.
And you know what? And back then it was just like to release, you know, like that was just good for your brand to be on a No Limit release. So it made sense. But I'll be honest, I knew, like, I love Pun and I love Pac. I mean, I absolutely voted for Pun on both because I knew that Pac was going to win this. The arguments would, I wouldn't disagree with anybody who voted for Pac. The reality is, even though both these guys were cut down short in their career, Pac was just that much further, and his influence and his, he's an icon already, and he hadn't even, he was approaching his prime,
Right.
And it's just for the things he did with his music and outside of music. He was just controversial, he was influential, he was political. There was nothing this guy couldn't talk about. He was really in just if rap ended, tomorrow, he really was one of the biggest things culture. Like Brandon, like you hit it on the head. John Lennon. I've used that exact analogy before. I was like, Pac was essentially, the gangster version of John Lennon in hip hop. His influence just can't be denied. He's been dead for over 20 years, and he still not only comes up in conversation, but gets heated conversation going. He still gets people arguing and defending, and in his defense and whatnot. People, shit on him as if he's, a current rapper now. He's just too it so happened to be that he has to be up against Pun in this round. Pun's my guy. He's my favorite rapper ever. That's why I voted for him. But Pac is literally an icon. Is not something that every legend is, but Tupac is an icon. And yeah, I agree. He's also probably going to the Final Four as well.
Well, here's the thing, and this is how you know how he's so relevant to this day. You got Lil Xan on an interview talking about, Tupac is boring. And then he's getting slammed by Twitter to the point where he's in California and he had to call the cops because people were trying to come after him. So that just shows you how strong Tupac as a legacy is. Yeah. That people were trying to touch Lil Xan.
Yeah, it's follow deep.
Yeah.
Whenever it's hip hop headline. Always for 20 years.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Shout out to Pun. You know what I'm saying? He just caught a nasty matchup, man. That's all. That's it. So we're gonna move on. We're almost done this region. Interesting matchup here. We had Nas easily coming out of the first round. Nas took care of Fonte from Little Brother in the first round. And we had
that was rough.
Yeah, that's rough, man. I mean, Fonte and Odyssey, man, they had rough places, man.
Yeah, because those guys definitely don't deserve to be first round knockouts, but like you said, the placements were just too strong.
Exactly. So Nas, this is like a Common versus Kane situation where you got Nas going up against Q-Tip, where like Q-Tip is like kind of a father for Nas, style wise and hip hop wise. I love Q-Tip. I love Tribe Called Quest. They're my favorite group of all time. I mean, I have their artwork in my living room. I just, I live my life like almost vicariously as a Tribe Called Quest themed album. You know what I'm saying? But
you named the brackets after Tribe albums.
We named the bracket after Tribe. You know what I mean? What more can we say? Respect to Q-Tip.
You gotta go.
But Nas. I got Nas. Spoiler alert: Nas is winning my whole bracket. So
I thought you were winning your whole bracket.
No.
Well, I had the Godson as well.
I had Rod going up against Nas, but I got Nas winning his whole bracket. So of course I got Nas taking this. Nas is 77% on Twitter right now. And that's it. I mean, I don't really talk much about Nas.
I think you said everything that needed to be said. I mean, I love Q-Tip. I mean, we're talking about the producing aspect, the creativity, the influence he had on people like Kanye West and other, more like backpacker, quote unquote, slash conscious rappers. But when you look at Nas' catalog, when you look at Nas has done, and some of the raps he has done as far as rapping stories backwards and rapping the aspect of a gun, I love Q-Tip, but I couldn't put him past Nas.
Well, it's interesting, Ray. You missed the first podcast, but so Q-Tip and Lauryn Hill were like a 8-9 matchup, and all the way up until we did the live podcast, we all made an executive decision to like renege our vote from Q-Tip to Lauryn Hill.
Yeah,
and I secretly,
really? Wow.
Yeah, we all kind of just were like brainstorming, like, yo, Lauryn can beat Q-Tip. You know what I mean? And I secretly tried to devise a plan to get Lauryn Hill past the first round, but it did not work.
I think what really came to us and having during the podcast, because when I first got the bracket, I'm looking at Q-Tip now. I'm like, I'm not Q-Tip, Lauryn. I'm like Q-Tip. Then you think twice about it. But then, granted, Lauryn Hill only had one solo album, and then Fuji only had 2 albums. But the impact she did for female rapping you know, and the Grammy nomination. Even though Grammys don't mean that much to me, but this is the impact